All right, guys. Thank you for coming back to another video. I definitely appreciate all the people who are returning guests. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Definitely make sure you are showing some love over here to the Pennywise channel because we come to educate in different ways, and we come to definitely make sure that we are keeping entertainment on lock as well. Now, today we're going to be talking about just Ghislane Maxwell. I know you're probably wondering who that is, and it's someone who has actually been on trial here as of late, in connection to the Jeffrey Epstein debacle. That's the best way I can put it, to be honest with you, because it was just catastrophic of what happened. And those who don't know about the Jeffrey Epstein episode, basically, he was selling people. I mean, there's only so many ways I can say it where I can actually keep it going, but he was literally had people for persons for sale. He had. So she is the madame of sorts to this Epstein guy. But she played a big part. However, she didn't have the fame and notoriety among the regular groups of people like us. But the people among the rich and famous, they knew who Giselle was, or Ghislane, excuse me, Ghislane. They knew who Ghislane was. Look, if I pronounce this name wrong, just go ahead and forgive me because the way that it's spelled is Ghislane, but she's English, so the pronunciation is a little bit different than what it looked like. It's actually pronounced Ghislane. So I think it's Stars. Stars came out with the episode one. There's a three-part series to Who is Ghislane Maxwell, and they just came out with episode one, which is the Queen Bee episode. It is a three-part series, so she is considered the world's most enigmatic female person seller. I'm gonna say that for lack of better words, because again, YouTube trips. So she was selling people, and she was known as the world's most enigmatic female person seller. Now, she's facing up to 60 years in prison, y'all. That's a long time. And baby girl is not no spring chicken. She got a little bit of age on her now. So 60 years, that's probably the rest of her life. That's honest. She's notarized as being charming, also having that assertive masculine energy. And that's some of the things that they pretty much described her as when she was coming up as a child. She was a daddy's girl. She always hung with daddy. And being that she always hung with daddy, she picked up some of his ways. Turns out daddy was a narcissist. So she picked up some of daddy's narcissistic ways. And when she picked up some of daddy's narcissistic ways, well, she learned to act, or as Steve Harvey would say, act like a woman but think like a man. Well, she mastered that. And in doing so, she was able to conquer a lot of people, men and women. So in chapter one, we got Michael Crick. So Michael Crick is a tutor. He claims he was one of Ghislaine's tutors, when she was 17 years old and over at Oxford University. Now she said that her father pressured her to succeed. Again, she was a daddy's girl. She was always up under daddy. She could do no wrong basically in daddy's eyes. So he gave money to the school, and the school that she went to again was Oxford University at that time. So she gave money over to that school, and that school would then, how it is when people have ties and they donate money to a school, and now all of a sudden their kids are getting all this extra privilege treatment because their fathers or their mothers or their parents or grandparents are donators to the school or large contributors to the school. And, they don't want to cut that money off. So, they get a little bit of special treatment. Now, she went to a boys' school, and I thought that was actually very interesting because she went to a boys' school, and I'm only assuming that her father was behind that because, again, that was his favorite child. And he let everybody know his favorite. He spoiled her. And they even say that she went from being a quiet and timid child to just the outright rude person. rude and demanding with the low patience. But they said very early on she knew how to work her father, and she knew how to get what she wanted out of him. She would turn on that voice, sit in his lap, maybe kiss him on the cheek, give him a hug, put on that baby voice, and she'd get everything she wanted as long as she did exactly what Daddy said. Because again, remember, her dad is a narcissist. So as a teenager, a young adult, people consider her flirty, but they say she kind of was like an attention hog. She enjoyed the attention. She was a socialite, the it girl, the queen. She always wanted to be that person that was the it girl. She always wanted to be the brightest shining star in the room. In fact, they have Patrick Newman and Anne McElroy, who apparently some of her university friends says that she was compelling. She was good with words. She knew what she wanted and she went for it. You know, but she relied on who her father was and his reputation. So a lot of that stuff was fake because she would hang out with the people who were rich and famous, trying to climb the social ladder. Other famous people's kids or rich people's kids. They would all hang out together, but they really didn't like one another. It was all fake. It was all phony. They would just hang out with each other to be in the it groups and the it crowds because it was all about that prestige. It was all about the fame of it all. So during the 80s, entrepreneurship had taken off. There was a lot of partying and drugs. Everybody knows it about the 80s. There was a lot of partying and drugs. I believe even the crack era started in the 80s. So you have Mariella Fostrup, who was this acquaintance of Ghislane from the 80s in London. Okay. And then you also have this guy named by Daffy Jones. Apparently he's a society photographer and basically says, he was one of Ghislane's party buddies. Okay. So you got these people, they know Ghislane, they hang with Ghislane, they're, going out, going to parties, they're doing their thing. Just living the party life. They're young, they're rich, their parents are loaded. They can do anything they want to do. Most of them are probably spoiled. So they kind of painted Ghislane as like one of the boys. The boys, they were comfortable around Ghislane. She didn't act like with the rest of the girls. She was more assertive. She gave everybody a comforting feeling. She was one of the boys. They didn't have to talk a certain way around Ghislane because Ghislane, that didn't bother Ghislane. They could be themselves. And so with that being said, she ended up with more male friends. But we still have to remember Ghislane's father sent her to a boys' school. So that's what Ghislane is used to. She's used to being around men or boys. She's used to being around males. And so it's only right that she would adapt on to some of the ways that the males were. And so therefore, it was nothing new to her. So you have another acquaintance by the name of Nikola Glucksman. He said he met her a weekend at a party. She was beautiful. She was charming. She was entertaining, but slightly manic. And that's going to be very important because, again, she's this brat. She's this spoiled brat, rude person that she's become because her father spoils her and gives her everything that she wants. And then she goes to school for the boys. So she's more dominant, more assertive because she's used to having to deal with men. So she now deals with life and things a little bit differently. She looks at it from a male perspective, or more assertive or more dominant perspective than the average female is taught to be, or at least without trying to be. So she was able to do a little bit more than the males were able to do because she still had that feminine charm. So there's people that said this lady has peer pressured them, and that the women felt like she would peer pressure them toward things that men like. For instance, there was this one time where this story they tell about the time that a bunch of these rich couples got together, and so Ghislane basically encouraged the men to put on scarves over their eyes, and the women were to take off their tops. and they were to go around to each men in a circle, and the men were supposed to try to put they were supposed to feel on their chest, and they were supposed to try to guess who it was, basically. Now, the men were all for it, but most of the women, well, some of the women were for it, but some of the women weren't for it. One woman left, and that was the Nicola Glucksman lady. She left, and because she basically didn't feel comfortable, with the game. But she is dead set on feeling like the reason that Ghislaine was able to encourage other women to do these things and make it seem like it was nothing was because of her charm, but also because of her assertiveness. So to the point where she almost pressured you into doing what she was asking of you to do, because if you didn't and you went against the grain, then she would make you feel low if you didn't go along with it. And so a lot of people feel like they were peer pressured towards the things that she wanted them to do. But it seemed like Giselle wanted to be accepted among the men more than anything, which is probably why she wanted to do this. The same way she wanted to be accepted by her father. Her father was a narcissist. And like I said, he spoiled Ghislaine. She didn't have any rules when it came to her father. So whatever it took to make her father happy is what she did. Because that's what kept the money rolling, the parties, the high life. So being that was also her father, and he made sure that she was taken care of, she did everything that he wanted her to do, whatever those things encountered. Now, by 1990, Ghislaine was 28 years old. She's working at her father's newspaper called The European. Now, some of the people gave a little bit of account. I'm not gonna lie. This first episode, most of the accounts that were given are people who knew Ghislaine, and so they're telling their experiences of her. So you have these different people from her father's newspaper who was based in New York, because Ghislaine is not from New York. Ghislaine is English. She's from Europe. She's from Europe. So she moves over to New York because she's trying to find herself, in a sense, but she's still on daddy's dollar. So she gets a job working for her father's newspaper, The European, but nobody likes her. Everyone says that she's rude and that she spared no words. She was a spoiled brat. She was demanding. She was rude. Had no patience. She would ask for things that weren't even in people's job description and expect them to have it done, even demanding them to have it done. And it was all the way out of their job description. But Ghislaine didn't care because her father was the owner and she could do whatever she wanted to do. Now, a lot of other people, they have another theory that comes out, and it says that Ghislaine's father was living through her. Again, they pinned this man as a narcissist who spoiled his daughter to the point where she would do anything that he wanted her to do. So they felt like he was kind of living vicariously through his daughter. And we've heard about that a couple of times where parents tried to live vicariously through their children. Well, that is one theory of the situation as well. So they said that he would make her work hard to please him. That she would bring people to him to meet when he was out in his in the parties and the galas, when he was doing his thing with just business, anything, that she would bring people to him. And so she was used to going out and kind of scouting people and bringing them to her father. And I think that point needs to be really noted. Let's put a pin in that right there, because that's going to be really important later. Because when it comes to the Epstein situation, she was doing that same very thing. She was bringing people to Epstein. Now, he may have coached her on how to please a wealthy man or whatever the case may be. So maybe she has some type of programming there, on the inside of that. But by 1991, she went to business for herself. Like I said, she went to New York. She was trying to build a newspaper. They was always together. Her dad, they were always together. And she mimicked him. She looked up to him. That was her father. He gave her everything she wanted. She looked up to him. As long as she mimicked everything her father taught her, she got what she wanted. He taught her to think and act like a man, but also to use her woman charm, her feminine charm. So with that being said, that dominancy, that's going to inflate the ego, and that's exactly what happened. She was not used to not getting what she wanted. Now she has this inflated ego, and she don't believe in consequences because her daddy ain't never gave her no consequences. She's been rich and one of the rich and famous of all the kids, so she never had to really deal with any consequences there. Her father, he donated to the school that she went to, so the teachers and the principal, they didn't fuss at her. They didn't do anything to her. They didn't want to lose that money. But then daddy passes away. And when daddy passes away, she loses all of this stuff. All the money, all the paid for trips, the shopping sprees. She's broke. She's like a regular person. And to someone that's never been a regular person, that's a hard hit. That's a hard pill to swallow. And Ghislane wasn't ready to, I keep calling her Giselle. Ghislane wasn't ready for that. She wasn't ready for that. She took her father's passing very hard. Because, like I say, she was her dad's favorite, and everybody knew it. He made sure everyone knew it. So she took it very hard. And apparently, daddy didn't have everything in order because mama was left with nothing. She lost her father and her lifestyle at the same time. And that's basically what happened. Now, some people thought her dad killed himself. But even after it being ruled an accident, Ghislane wanted to prove that it wasn't a suicide because they ruled her dad's death or suicide. They basically said he jumped over off the side of one of his yachts and drowned, and that he did it on purpose. Sounds like a that sounds like something the insurance company would say to me. I don't know. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section. That sound like the insurance company's uh, excuse because that's what it sounds like to me. But Janae was a regular person. She wanted to prove it wasn't suicide, but she had lost everything that her dad was giving her because she was basically cut off. So that arrogance that she once walked around with, that being demanding and all that kind of stuff, oh, she lost all that because she got a taste of what real life like is for regular people. She's living in New York and now she no longer has daddy's money. She got to figure things out, but she don't know much because she hasn't really been taught much. She's just been a spoiled brat all her life. She was hosting tea parties. Tea parties that consisted you to be without clothing. Now she was crying broke, but she was hosting these tea parties, and they would get pretty X-rated in them because you would derobe in some form of fashion, and she would basically exert her dominance on these people, exert her control on these people, and that's basically how she was got these able to do it. So she basically preyed on people using her narcissistic influence from her father that her father had taught her, as well as using her wit and charm. Because remember, these people that are meeting her from her college years, and even before then, they're saying that she's charming, she's witty, she knows the right words to say, she has a beautiful smile, she's pretty, and she's using all of these things to her advantage because her father has taught her how to finesse. And she's learned how to be a finesse, and she literally perfected that. And when she perfected that, she went from being a zero to a hero once again. One of the writers, there was a writer that came on there, and his name was Jesse Cornbluth. And he said he was propositioned by Ghislane. And it was really more just speaking to her, again, her masculine energy, um, speaking to how masculine she was. And he was basically saying, like, his wife was like maybe 5 or 6 feet from him. And she pretty much just told him, like, you either gonna sleep with me or shut up. And he was like, well, I'm not gonna sleep with you, so there's that. Now it says that Ghislaine Epstein from a party life, which it's a running thing for Ghislaine's story already. Everybody that's saying that they've been acquaintances, went to university with her, all these type of things. They say she was a socialite. She was the party goer. She was that it girl. She wanted to be that queen bee girl that everyone knew. So everyone knew her from the party life with the rich and famous. You know. So no one knew where Epstein's money actually came from, but they knew he was connected with the global elites, which is why Ghislaine would have been running to him because he was connected with the global elites. And considering that she wasn't even from America, and Epstein at least was here in New York. But Ghislaine, y'all remember, she's English. She's from London or England. She's an English girl. She went to school in London, but she was English. She's an English girl. So for her to even run into Epstein, period, lets you know that he was connected with the global elites. Now, Epstein is apparently been given the information or notoriety of being there for Ghislaine. I keep messing up this girl name. It doesn't matter. The lady's trash. Really. Basura. For real. But Ghislaine, apparently Epstein was there for her after her father passed away. She was really going through it. She grieved really hard. Again, she was a daddy's girl. So she lost the apple of her eye and her lifestyle. And so Epstein was supposedly there for her. So she ended up working for Jerry. So basically, she was mad to keep the money. And she didn't matter. It didn't matter what the cost was. And that she was pretty much dead set on. And that's where episode 1 stopped. Or part 1, should I say, stopped. So we stopped where Ghislaine is just now meeting Epstein. So I'm kind of excited to see where that's going to go. So we're going to definitely stay tuned for part 2 of Who is Ghislaine Maxwell and see what it is that her ties are to Epstein. Like I said, her trial just ended and she actually just was sentenced. Or just, I think she was just given a brief sentence. I'm going to double check on that. But this is to show you what people will do for money. And this is part of the Pennywise segment because of the simple fact that it's a really simple message that, you know what, in order to be Pennywise, you got to make some good decisions. Not just when it comes to the money that you have, but even the money that you're trying to make or that you're trying to get, the lifestyles that you're trying to have. Look at this lady. This lady put everything on the line for a lifestyle because it's what she was used to. And I guess she was used to it in some form of fashion. But my thing is, how much did her dad real love her? He didn't leave her nothing to take care of his supposed favorite. But he taught her how to get on in life and how to maneuver and how to work like a man. And now she's facing up to 60 years in jail. Like I said, she just got sentenced, so I got to get the sentencing because I think they only settled on about 20. But this is the documentary on Ghislaine Maxwell. I did not know this lady before this time, but I thought that this story was really intriguing, and so therefore, I decided to feature it on my segment. But other than that, if you enjoyed the content on today, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I definitely want to thank you all for returning or coming in and checking out the broadcast today. Thank you again. You have a good day.